Hello, what is going on, everybody? It is Tuesday, February 11th. It is this week's episode of The Walkthrough. I'm your host, Joe Macheca. Welcome into it. What happened to Gamecock women's basketball down in Austin on Sunday? How can the Gamecocks bounce back against Florida to get ready for number 6 UConn? All that after this week, or after the intro. Here we go. This is The Walkthrough again. Appreciate everyone tuning in, and here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for this week's episode of The Walkthrough, presented by the Chief Sports Network. And now, here's your host, Joe Macheca.
Yes, indeedy. It is that time of the week. God, I love that intro. So good. A little bit of Motown bringing you in. But yeah, welcome to it. It's this week's episode of The Walkthrough. I'm your host, Joe Macheca. Welcome in a little early today, going live to make sure that I get everything from Dawn Staley's Carolina College. She's going live at 6 p.m. Over on 107.5 The Game. So be sure I will be giving all live updates from Coach Staley on the Plano's PPG message boards, for the Big Spur. So head over there, get all of my updates from Coach Staley during Carolina calls. But, wanted to get the walkthrough going beforehand and talk about this loss, right? South Carolina loses, for the first time since UCLA way earlier in non-conference season. They dropped the game to Texas 66-62. I'm pulling. I will have the box score up for you here shortly. It's a loss that, the officials certainly made themselves part of it. That is for certain. But again, it's a loss that, South Carolina, they're going to have to learn from it, right? But to me, they got distracted with the fouls. And I mean, if you look at it, the fouls were horrendous. And looking at South Carolina's box score, again, here you go. Didn't shoot too well, 36.8%. But, you dropped the game against Texas, 66-62 down in Austin. So, I mean, firstly, you drop in the polls down to number 4. Texas and Notre Dame jump you, obviously. And Notre Dame, has played some good basketball. I think South Carolina will run into them down the road, which is going to cause some chaos in my family because my grandmother's a season ticket holder for Notre Dame. So, I'm certainly not happy about Notre Dame jumping, South Carolina in the polls because losing never helps anybody in this business. But, I know my grandmother is back home, so I guess there's some consolation in that. But again, South Carolina down to 4. It's the lowest they've been ranked in quite a while. But again, it's one of those things that comes with the territory. The officials had their all over this game. The fouls were ridiculous, and Dawn was giving it to the officials all game long, and rightfully so, right? There were 2 calls on Sanaya Fagan, all ball blocks, right? She gets everything, and I can't show the clip because we'll get dinged for copyright, but it's all ball, right? The follow through maybe a little messy, but it's a good clean block, and they call the foul on Sanaya Fagan, which is. It's mind blowing when and you can't call that foul when you get all ball. But so, I mean, 9 fouls were called on South Carolina in the first quarter. 9. It's ridiculous. Not good. I understand the angle of, the officials wanting to keep it tight, right? Oh, okay, it's going to be a big game, right? You want to keep it tight, but I think they started calling everything, right? And then realized, oh, wait, it's the first quarter. South Carolina has 19 fouls, and Texas had 7. You can't keep up with that pace. All of the good players, and I mean, we saw it with Fagan. Sanaya Fagan was in foul trouble. I mean, from the jump, she had 2 fouls early on in the first quarter, and it was, what are we doing, right? So, it was just one of those things where the fouls got in the way and kind of took the momentum and just belief out of some of the South Carolina team, right? And I'm going to talk about this here in a second, but I mean, this game had everything go wrong, right? And I mentioned at the top of the show, and you're looking at it right now, they shot 36.8%. You can't have other things, around the game or surrounding the game go wrong and shoot 36%. Like, that's just not going to get the job done. You needed to shoot at least 50% to win a game like this. And, again, when you're handcuffed with Sanaya Fagan, actually three of South Carolina's bigs had fouls called on in the first quarter. 5 fouls were distributed between South Carolina forwards. Fagan had 2, Dowda had 2, and then it left Chloe Kitts, who had 1 foul in the first quarter herself, to play center. And I mean, I personally think Chloe Kitts is more of a small forward when you really look at it and really, look at her skill set and just the height of everything. She's not necessarily a true 5. I mean, maybe you can make a case for her being a true 4, but I don't see Chloe Kitts as a center. But, with Dowda and Fagan both, handcuffed with 2 fouls there early on in the first quarter, like, you got to do something. And credit to Chloe Kitts. She was down there. She was trying her best, right? But she was getting out rebounded all day, and it's some of the length that you just can't keep up with, showed through. And so again, when two of South Carolina's bigs are in foul trouble early on in the first quarter, and you got to play a small forward at center, it's going to handcuff you, right? This is exterior stuff within the game that they can't control. And that went wrong, right? Like, because we've seen the Oklahoma. I go back to the Oklahoma game. I think it was Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma. They shot really poorly. Or I take that back. It wasn't Oklahoma. But there have been games from the South Carolina team. Nonetheless, we've seen this team play games this season where they'll shoot the ball poorly but still win the game. Why is that? Well, it's because they control everything else, right? There wasn't any foul trouble. There wasn't a deficit to chase, right? You can't, shoot the ball poorly and expect to win a game where, you've got bigs in foul trouble. You've got forwards in foul trouble. Your whole team essentially was in foul trouble with the rate that they were calling them down there in Austin. And shout out, I texted Brad Muller at halftime. Said, I hope you're being nice to these guys, right? I can't confirm or deny if Brad was. I wish I had the broadcast on towards the second half when the radio broadcast on in the second half where the fouls were a little bit better, but still, I mean, Sanaya Fagan still had one more where the clean block where it's all ball, right? Gets a foul called. It was ridiculous. And Dawn certainly let him hear about it. She she was on with Holly Rowe at halftime, or at the end of the first quarter, and was just talking about like how, let the players play the game. Let the players play the game. People come here to see, South Carolina's firepower, to see like the big women's basketball game that it was amped up to be, right? You got number 2 and number 4 playing. Huge game, right? But then the refs, they want to call it tight because they know how, the game can get off too. Like you let a big game like that get off and physical. It can, pose some challenges to keep control of the game, throughout. Right. So again, I think the refs took South Carolina's edge away, their ability to bully a team right away. And, South Carolina can win games when they shoot poorly, if they're able to, hold the edge, right? Still, have a lead and maintain it, bully a team away almost. Right. So, I don't know. The fouls, it was uneven throughout the game, I guess. If you look at it, 18 total fouls to Texas, South Carolina's 21. Texas had 7 called in the first quarter, 2 less than South Carolina. Right. And then, South Carolina had 12 after their 9 called in the first quarter. Texas, kept pace with them there as well. So, like, they had 11 called the rest of the game. So, To finish with 3 behind South Carolina. So it was even somehow, right? And granted, like South Carolina's 3, and there were 3 intentional fouls there at the end of the game as well. Full Wiley, I think it was Full Wiley and Bree Hall each had a foul, under 15 seconds there towards the end of the game. So realistically, if you count out the intentional fouls, it was 18-18, right? So, not great. But I mean, looking at the specialty stats over here on the side, if everyone's following, layups can't go 12 of 26, right? It goes back to that shooting percentage. You can't shoot ugly and win a game where you have so much exterior BS, so much exterior nonsense going on, right? Can't win games like that when you're shooting poorly. Now, if you would have shot 50%, probably get the job done. But the officials, they establish themselves within this game, kind of took just South Carolina's juice out of it. But, and to go back to the first meeting, South Carolina wins at home, 17 at home. They bullied Texas. They shot 51% and won by 17. It's not to figure out why they lost this game. I mean, it's clearly the fouls and the shooting percentage is abysmal. And this team knows that they can. I mean, it's shooting 36% has been uncharacteristic of this team. Excuse me. They'd been shooting making about half their shots, in SEC play. It was pretty close. I think it's the numbers. I don't want to throw a number, completely out there because, I don't necessarily remember it right off the top of my head, but they've been close to making half of their shots throughout SEC play, and they've done a good job. Like I mentioned, they shot 51% last time they played Texas. They're more than capable of making half their shots against good teams. And so, again, when you have the fouls that were called like they were, handcuffing you again, making a small forward play, play center, right? I don't necessarily know how fortunate you can be to win a lot of games like that. So I don't think this game is going to be something to worry about, right? No, the season's not over. It's a tough game on the road. I don't think, there's any reason to panic whatsoever, especially how bad the officials were. Again, I don't like to call out and say like, yo, officiating was bad, but they were calling too many fouls. It's just calling it too tight. Again, on the Fagan blocks, maybe there might have been a little contact on the way through, but why are we calling that? The ball is not even close to the play anymore. You're calling it too tight. So it got away from this South Carolina team. And, it's at the end of the day, when all else goes wrong, you got to shoot the basketball well. You got to shoot the basketball well. So, it's the first time since 2021 and 2022 since South Carolina has lost 2 games in a season. Anybody remember what happened in 2021 and 2022? They won the national championship, right? So I don't know if we believe in loss omens or if this team is certainly good enough to win the national championship. Need a little bit of break with the height, right? Need Miriam Dowda to kind of come along and get really physical. Need Sanaya Fagan not to get into foul trouble. Certainly would help, right? But again, you snap your 57 game record-breaking 57 game conference win streak, which it's unfortunate. But it dates back, that win streak dated back to 21 and 22. So add another connection to the national championship team 2 years ago. Sure. Why not? Go ahead. Right. So again, I don't think this team is going to let this Texas game define them whatsoever. Again, looking at it, they didn't convert as well. Like points per, it's not good. I'm looking at all the specialty stats, over on the side here, and it's like you can't go that many possessions scoring the basketball that little. You got to shoot better. You got to take better shots too. You got to take better shots. Absolutely got to take better shots. So again, this team has to prepare for UConn, right? UConn coming to town on Sunday. It's pretty big. It's a big game. College game day will be here. I expect a decent basketball game, and I'll get into the full UConn preview after the break here in a second. But the Texas game, it's water off the back for this team. I don't think they fear Texas. They know they're a better team than Texas. They beat them by 17 at home, right? And they should have beaten them last week had it not been for, again, Texas limiting possessions down the stretch. I don't necessarily agree with. They had Tessa Johnson on that last possession, that leaner. I don't know. I mean, I get that it's a matchup that she wants, but she could have pull it back, right? Be patient. Be patient offensively. And I didn't see enough patience from this squad against Texas. But against Florida, I fully expect them to be patient. You got Florida coming to town on Thursday before things get going with UConn on Sunday. UConn also has a tune-up game as well. But again, it's just one of those games where, they didn't win because the fouls, and you had Biggs in foul trouble. And what are you limited on? Biggs. Step one. You didn't shoot the basketball well to get out of that, right? If you were shooting the basketball well, all things would have been absolved, right? And you look at Texas. Texas shot 44%. It's not 50. But it's also not 36, right? So, and you lost the game by 4. So, they very easily could have won this game. And it's, again, there was just so much else going on around the building and around the game, right? To where you had to shoot well. They didn't. It's a loss. All right, so I'm going to hit a quick commercial break, quick timeout real quick. And then on the flip side, we will talk all things Florida and all things UConn. Again, UConn coming to town, play South Carolina at Colonial Life Arena this Sunday. Again, full preview coming to you live after this break.
Low on energy? Struggling with inflammation and poor digestion? Try Encapsulate 6 Mushroom Blend and get back in the game. Our blend is specially formulated to promote overall wellness and maximize health benefits using 6 powerful functional mushrooms. Our science-forward approach offers the most potent and bioavailable mushroom supplement on the market, backed by third-party testing to ensure safety and efficacy. Order online on Amazon or encapsulateusa.com today to start your journey to better living. Enter promo code JCM for $10 off.
I said, oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Ain't nobody can.
SC.com.
What Right to Bear is we're an association of members across the entire country, and what we offer is we offer legal defense in the event of a self-defense case. Nice. So it's not insurance. So we offer an attorney in the event that one of our members might have some type of an accident. ProtectWithBear.com. We've got all of our social media accounts on the bottom of our website. We've got blogs, articles, detailed description of all of the coverages in depth. And, we'd love to have you come check us out and ultimately get the protection you need.
Yeah, once again, shout out to our guys at Encapsulate, Resto Pros, Protect with Bear, the Right to Bear arms. Shout out to our guy Perryworth over there, Protect with Bear, and again, all of our sponsors for making this show possible. All right, last 10 minutes of the show here again. Going a little early because Dawn Staley will be on Carolina Calls here at 6:00. I'll have full coverage on the Planos PPG message boards if you would like to join me. Get everything from Coach Staley. Get all of your updates from Coach Staley's call-in show. I'll have them. They'll be there. So join me over on the message boards shortly after this. But here we go. UConn, the last really, 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 really big game on the schedule till tournament time, right? It's UConn. Big bad UConn comes into the game 22-3. 3 losses come at the hands of Notre Dame, Tennessee, the team that South Carolina beat, up in Rocky Top 2, and Southern Cal, right? So, Big bad UConn coming into Colonial Life Arena, bringing, one of the most dynamic scorers women's basketball has ever seen, in Paige Beckers, right? Pretty big player there, but also bringing in AZ Fudd, who's been banged up, right? AZ Fudd, Sarah Strong. Taking a look at the stats here before we go to the game. Or actually, I'll pivot. We'll pull up the game notes first. See what, and I know, ESPN has Carolina winning this game, I think, on the percentage wise. Again, because you've got Florida on the schedule still. Just gonna go. Okay, so here we go. UConn and South Carolina. UConn sitting in the top of the Big East, 13-0 in conference. Their conference really isn't a whole lot, right? Creighton's pretty decent. But, again, UConn taking care of them, 72-61 back there in January. So, Gamecocks given a 61.4% chance to win from ESPN here, right? So, okay. Now we dive into it a little bit. Paige Beckers leading the Huskies in, averaging 18.8 points per game. She's cold-blooded, man. Paige Beckers is a cold-blooded killer on the offensive end. Plain and simple. She's great. She can score. She can assist. The thing that stands out to me the most about this UConn team, it's deep. It is deep. It is similar to South Carolina, to where they have, what did I say? Well, how many is it? 7 players averaging more than 5 points per game, right? And then Ice Brady, your forward, also 6'3". Ice Brady's she's going to cause a problem, right? Sarah Strong's going to be, she's your starter. And then Ice comes in, but you're dealing with 6'2" and 6'3". It's not going to be easy by any means, but nothing South Carolina hasn't seen yet. Sarah Strong's averaging 16. It's gonna pose an issue. Again, 6'2", sophomore from North Carolina. Averaging 16 a game, 7 rebounds a game. I would assume you'll see a Joyce Edwards matched up with Sarah Strong. I would like to think you're going to put either it's got to be Chloe on Paige Beckers, but I don't know. I could see Bree Hall matching up with Paige as well. That's also a good matchup. I don't. We'll see how Dawn attacks Paige Beckers, right? And this team is deep, man. Like I said, Tino's teams are always deep. This team is no exception. They don't have, again, outside of Sarah Strong and Ice Brady, they don't have like much height. There's not much that they can attack with height-wise. So it's going to be a guard-heavy game. We know what Paige is going to bring. We know what AZ Fudd's going to bring. Fudd's been, having her way, especially in these last couple. Right? She finished, 17 against Providence. In the loss, she only had 10, right? So stopping AZ Fudd's going to be a big part of this game plan here too. But then you see 13 against Butler, 17 against DePaul, and then working her way back against Creighton, right? But, AZ Fudd got to be an issue. But how does this South Carolina team beat UConn, right? What do they got to do? What do they have to do to get the job done against this UConn team? To me, you got to stop Paige Beckers. Stop Paige Beckers at all costs. Whatever you do, stop Paige Beckers. She's averaging 18. She's the lifeblood of this team. She's one of the best scorers we've seen in women's college basketball. Stop Paige Beckers at all costs. If you can do that, then you focus on everybody else. Because I think this team breathes through Paige, and rightfully so. She's unbelievably talented as a player. And again, I think we're going to see more of a platoon until somebody can stop her, right? Dare I say we even throw full Wiley on her? Maybe. Can full Wiley guard the size? Also a valid question. Is Joyce Edwards going to get the nod to go guard one of the most efficient scorers in the country? I don't necessarily know quite yet, but it's going to be interesting to see. South Carolina is going to get through Florida, sure, right? Florida ranked. I think Florida's 3-7 in conference. Their only win in their last 6 games is against 9-17 Arkansas. Expecting a big win against Florida. UConn has St. John's before they play South Carolina, so they get their tune-up game as well. It's pretty big. But again, I don't think height is going to, like we saw against Texas. Chloe Kitts had to play center. You weren't tall enough, and you lost the paint battle. You lost the battle in the post. Not necessarily something that's I would think is going to happen against UConn. But again, beware. Sarah Strong's really, really talented down there. Really talented. So again, it's just one of those things where if you can stop Paige Beckers, make sure that everyone else does their job. And I think you should be fine defensively. Now, offensively, you got to find some life. You really do. You got to find some life. It's been like you can't have the day that you did against Texas offensively. You got to take good shots. You got to trust one another. Take good shots, right? I know Dawn's been encouraging her bigs to shoot threes. This might be one of the games where Chloe makes a couple threes. And the shooting goes down, right? Like the shots start to hit, right? I think the fact that this game is at CLA is a big deal. It's a very big deal. We know what happens when ranked teams come to Colonial Life Arena, especially nowadays. Not fun for opposing teams coming to Colonial Life. And so, again, stop Paige Beckers. Do what you can to limit her success, right? But I think this UConn game, at the end of the day, it's going to be really, really good basketball. Like, I expect clean, efficient basketball, especially if they're both shooting high percentage in the early going. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You're going to see a lot of good offensive sets. Gino and Dawn are both fantastic offensive coaches, right? So if they're shooting a pretty good clip, and we wind up getting, and now the whole game's not going to be high scoring. I think there's going to be some defense. Both teams have straps, right? Like to where they can lock down and play really solid defense when they need to. But I expect a very, it's going to be a chess match. It always is. Always seems to be. Dawn Staley and Gino Oriema. I mean, with Kim Mulkey and Dawn, it's more like, an argument almost, right? It's almost like, there's more energy to it. This game feels a little bit more to me like a chessboard, right? Dawn's sitting across from Gino, looking him dead in the eye. What are we doing? It's going to be a chess game, right? Throughout. And again, you've got dynamic players. Joyce Edwards, becoming one of the leading freshman forwards and leading forwards in the country in terms of scoring. She's going to, the next generation of what everything Paige Beckers has been able to do scoring the basketball, right? I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting matchup seeing Paige play against Joyce. The generation that is next up in the pros playing against the generation that is next up in college basketball. It's going to be exciting stuff. And again, the chess game that it is, getting it going, that it will be, I expect really good basketball at the end of the day. So, all right. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Dawn Staley is going live on Carolina Calls right now. So I'm going to head over to the Plano's PPG message boards, give you guys all of the updates from Dawn Staley on Carolina Calls tonight with Brad Muller. So join me over there on the message boards, Plano's PPG, to be exact. So, join me, get all your updates from Carolina Calls, and also watch Inside the Gamecocks show every Monday or every day, 10 till noon in the mornings, and then the afternoon show goes live from 12 to 2. They've got you covered Monday through Friday. Join JB on the morning show, my guy, and then Phil and JC, the boss man, on the afternoon show on the Chief Sports Network. Appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. I've been your host, intern Joe, or I've been your host, Joe Macheca. I haven't been an intern in a long time. But again, appreciate everyone tuning in tonight, and have a blessed one. Join me over on the Plano's PPG message boards. Get all of your takes from Don Staley on Carolina calls. Appreciate everybody.